Yes, that fanfare means that it's time for Let's Talk.
Goody.
I can't wait.
It's a forum, an on-air community forum, getting to the root causes of issues that affect us all.
Oh, nice.
Your voice matters. Of course it does, and we welcome all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or 8317. And in the studio today, Shelley Rugg.
Good afternoon.
Stephen Hurwitz.
Hi there.
And I'm Paul Raffel. And when you do call in, and of course you're going to... How could you not? When you call in, you'll hear a funny little noise as I put you in the system. Just hang on until you hear me say you're on the air. Then give us a first name, turn your radio down, and please keep the language clean as a whistle.
That's right.
And what are we talking about today? We're talking about touristification.
Who made that word up?
I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. And then, of course, the synonym would be overtourism.
I would call it toxic tourism.
Toxic tourism. Uh-huh. And we're talking not just locally, although if you'd like to call in and make any comments about local tourism, please feel free. Or tourism anywhere. Have you experienced the overcrowding of these wonderful cities that everyone wants to go to, or Machu Picchu, or Everest? Have you waited in line to get to the summit of Everest?
Wait a
perhaps?
minute. Machu Picchu's on my bucket list, don't you remember?
And many of them, many others, I'm sure. So, yes, that's why they're building an airport now at Machu Picchu. An international airport.
Really?
Lovely.
Yeah.
Just in time for me.
Brilliant, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, so that's the subject. It's about how tourism, rampant tourism, is changing, destroying, really, certain cities, certainly in Europe.
Parts of San Francisco, for sure.
And San Francisco, and some would say West Marin, by driving up property prices, driving out local residents, shutting down businesses that service local residents,
The
and bringing
Airbnb
in
effect.
tourism. The Airbnb effect, among other things.
Yeah.
The cruise ship effect. Luckily, they can't get cruise ships into Tamales Bay unless somebody comes up with a dredging idea. But,
oh, no.
But, yeah.
They seem to be the big culprit in Europe anyway, the cruise ships.
They're huge. I've been on a cruise ship once. Just one. I'll never do it again. Mm-hmm. It was went down around the Horn, and we stopped in at Ushuaia, this tiny little fishing village right at the tip of South America. And in comes this 7-story high
Oh, wow.
thing towering over this little fishing village.
A good-sized neighborhood.
And, thousands of people coming off, and they're all going to go and see the penguins or something, And Donna and I at the time, we just wandered around town talking to local people. And in the center of the square in the harbor were a bunch of guys sitting around and smoking, and we came over and just started talking, and they were local fishermen. And they usually have their boats moored tied up alongside the dock. But when the cruise ships come in, they have to take their boats out, anchor them out, and they don't go fishing that day.
Oh, wow.
I've always imagined that they were like being trapped in a mall, in a shopping mall or something like that.
Oh, being on a cruise ship?
Oh, they're awful.
Being on a cruise
awful.
ship. Yeah.
It was terrible. This was it was very fancy and ridiculously so. Talk about overconsumption, man. And just, awful. Anyway.
Yeah.
But,
well, and there's
the
also...
only way I was going to get to go around the Horn.
Well, along with all of those effects is just the pure air travel that contributes to our climate problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly a problem in Europe, is the cheap airlines, which sounds wonderful. You can get to fly from England to Spain for $10, $20, something like that, $30. But only because they're massively subsidized by the British government. They don't pay taxes on their fuel. They don't pay taxes on their revenues, a lot of them. Like Ryanair is hugely subsidized. And they're talking about, they have been talking about perhaps doing some free flights to Europe, which,
They make it up on the water. They charge $3 for the water.
Exactly.
Oh, is that
for
all?
everything and for the seat.
The suitcase. It's a free seat, but $60.
To put your bag on.
Yeah.
But and so that has given rise to this phenomenon where people, for example, let's go with the UK because that's where I'm from. Where they'll do if you have a stag night coming up, you don't go to the local pub anymore. You don't go around the corner to the pub and get drunk and stagger home and do what all drunk people do. They go to Barcelona or they go to the Costa del Sol, don't they? And it's just awful. They're just terrorizing these poor townspeople.
It's like an invasion.
Yeah, and they're just doing the worst, horrible antisocial stuff. And it's been that way for a while on the Costa del Sol. Though.
There was a chart I saw that was comparing the pollution that comes from the ships with the automobile on the in the locations, and showing how many cars it would be to compare to what the pollution is, and it's enormous. You don't really realize that the pollution from these these
terrible things
is huge,
and garbage and everything.
Yeah.
And when they break down, of course, all those systems kind of go and pump the sewage out into the harbor.
Yeah, so we experienced that here right in Point Reyes, hey? Yeah.
Explain.
Well, too many people, not enough places
Services.
to use the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And,
how many portaloos are there now? We've got the actual.
I think there's the three. I think it's 3 built-in public restrooms, and then behind that, I feel like it's at least 6. I haven't looked lately, but I think they have about 6 porta potties in back.
Oh, in the back of the actual restrooms? Wow.
Right. And then next to the Grandi building, where there's a little visitor center or whatever, there are some porta potties behind that most
3
people
more,
don't even direct people to go to. It's like they don't exist, but they're there. So in case
wheelchair accessible, one of them.
probably.
So now you've messed it up. Those were my private.
That's your private throne in town.
You told everybody.
It's where you go for a quiet smoke. Is that what you're doing in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are towns doing? These cities like Amsterdam and Barcelona and Venice and all these beautiful old cities are trying
New
to
Orleans.
figure out what to do. New Orleans.
Yeah.
They're trying to. What is the solution to it all? I mean, they can certainly cut down on Airbnbs.
Yeah,
but,
I was about to say
but
that.
it's Airbnb came about 12 years ago or something, and suddenly everyone wanted to do it.
Well, somebody
and there were
figured
no
out
regulations in place.
Exactly, and I think the original idea was that people could make a little money on the side if they had a spare bedroom or they were going away for the weekend or a week. They could rent their place out.
Right.
But business-minded people went, we could buy a cute little one-bedroom pad somewhere by the beach and we can make major money on it.
Or 6 of them, or
Right.
It's been consolidated.
Yeah.
There was when I was in Croatia, there were companies that owned numerous buildings that they,
And what happens to like towns in Croatia and to big cities like
it's
Barcelona?
destroying communities.
Yeah.
Well, you can pick places that aren't serviced by the cruise ships, which are a lot quieter. Yeah.
15,000 visitors a day in the height of the season from cruise ships. Just
my
from
gosh.
cruise ships.
To what city?
To Barcelona, for
Barcelona,
example, and to I mean it's a number that comes up over and over. 15 to 17,000 tourists every day coming out of these ships, disgorging.
I know Mallorca is
into the
having a huge problem.
It's
and
like
if you look online, I mean, this was some of the most depressing homework I've ever done for this show, which is saying something, because there's just all these pictures of these beautiful places just
Trash.
shoulder to shoulder with people.
Amsterdam, yeah.
And they all got their cell phone. They were taking selfies.
Oh,
Jesus.
my.
Well, I think that the travel industry, the travel writers and papers, etc., are. I think they have a huge responsibility because they're always looking for some place new to remind people, hey, there was a New York Times had an article of if you want to beat the crowds, go to these locations. Oh, Amsterdam's too crowded, go to The Hague.
Yeah,
well, thank you. Yeah, it shows this quiet little place and somebody canoeing down, one of the canals. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like this is a case where, since there aren't strong regulations in place, that each local community needs to step up and create their own regulations. And, a 7-story cruise ship may not be appropriate for every town.
Yeah.
And if the cruise companies, of course it makes sense business-wise to have that many levels. That means you pack more people and make more money. But yeah, it's a little absurd to dump that many people all at once into a town. And
they're not necessarily spending much money locally either.
Yeah,
that's the whole point of allowing these ships to get bigger and bigger and have more people. They're all fed very royally, as much as
so
you
they
can
don't
eat
need
on board. They're not going to restaurants for the food. They're just going to take a selfie with a glass of beer.
Yeah.
They go to local markets. This is one of the big complaints of some people. A little video I watched interviewing people in Barcelona, and they're local markets. Lovely places where you can get anything you want. You can get your meat and your eggs and your cheese. Everyone, these market stalls. But the ship comes in, it just fills up with people, and they're all taking selfies of themselves with
the market in the background.
Ham.
Yeah.
Well, I think Pier 29. Some friend of mine brought out of town, and they wanted to go there. We went. It's absurd. Again, it's one of those places that is so crowded that it really isn't fun or interesting to stop at one of the little shops there. Just so many people. It's destroyed as a...
It's turning places into Disneylands with different.
I think it's worse.
Backgrounds.
Disney is controlled in some way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, true. Yeah, and that's the weird thing about it. The more tourists come, the more a place is inundated with tourists who are actually taking the place of residents, and all the stores go away, except for tchotchke stores and souvenirs and T-shirts.
Wait a minute. What's wrong with
the facade? The facade is still there, but it's not that place anymore.
Right,
the thing that you are going to see is no longer there.
Yeah, and I think back to Point Reyes, it's like people who've lived here all their lives work really hard at trying to maintain, what it once was as best they can, and not all communities do that. But one thing about here is that people have to drive out here at least half an hour. So when they get here, they might be hungry or thirsty. But so there's that.
They come here for the oysters,
the food, the cheese,
the cheeses.
Yeah.
There was a measurable change in Marshall when Via wrote an article about it.
Oh yeah, travel writers. We have a caller. Hi, caller. You are on the air. What's your name, please? Yellow. Hello, caller. Hello, caller. Hello, caller.
Well, do call back.
Call back, won't you? 415-663-8492. If you have comments about Overtourism.
Well, I knew it was Via had a responsibility when all of a sudden I'm down there. I'm talking to people that came up from San Jose on a day trip.
So part of the question then is how can you possibly tell people not to come to a place? We don't have the ability to stop traffic coming here, right? Or do we?
When Bernie Sanders is elected, we'll do something about this.
The communists are coming. So is it a fundamental human right that people have the right to travel and to enjoy themselves, recreate no matter what happens to the surroundings in which they are recreating?
Well, I don't know about no matter what happens. But I do think, in the case of a huge cruise ship pouring into town. I've never been on a cruise, but I used to live in Southern California, and I would take a boat across to Catalina Island. So it was a similar effect, this onslaught of tourists unloading all at the same time from the ferry. Yeah. But that was mostly an influx for the day, and then it would all go away by the evening, and everything, like the businesses all seemed to mostly cater to that tourism. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Catalina. I mean, there's a farm, there's a ranch there.
There are buffalo or
what
bison.
used to be the casino.
There's the casino. Oh, the casino is gorgeous inside. If they have a movie theater, and you go in there, and they've got this huge built-in, one of those old school organs that has all kinds of instruments attached to it.
Great.
And somebody plays live before the movie. And it's just beautiful inside, the way it's painted, hand-painted.
Everyone should go to Catalina.
You got to see it.
So that's travel broadens the mind. That's what that's why people enjoy tourism. They like to go to new places, different places, exotic locales.
Thinking about what you said about you and Donna, instead of going with the group, you broke off. I think we might have a caller. You broke off from the group to kind of experience the town for what it was. And for me, that's the way to experience your travel. If you can sort of immerse yourself in...
What's the point?
Otherwise,
you get out, you get off the cruise ship into a bus, you go,
and you
take
go on
pictures
a little tour,
of penguins
and you
if they're
listen,
there, and you come back. Hi, caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please?
Sally.
Sally.
Hi, Sally.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, wait, it's noon.
Yeah, well,
yes, everyone. The show starts at noon now.
Still feels like
we're not used to that.
I don't like to be Mrs. Smarty Pants, but for some reason when I was pretty young, I had an intuitive feeling that cruises were terrible. And then when I worked at another radio station, I remember hearing a news show that reported that cruise ships dumped their trash and waste directly into the water.
Correct.
Oh no!
And this was kind of a long time ago, and I heard that, and I was so appalled, and like on a very deep level, I was alarmed, and so I felt kind of vindicated in my intuition. But more than that, I felt like I was very sorry that was true, and why was that not being stopped? And so reporting on it didn't seem to have any effect on the fact that it was happening.
Yeah.
And
who would police such things? Mostly they're in open water, open sea.
I think there's also the problem that
except in the Mediterranean,
we normalize things. So it's been it continues that people are dumping things into the ocean as if somehow it disappears and nothing happens.
Throw it in the
creek. Should be education a little too late. Nevertheless, there should be and should always have been a mainstream curriculum that includes caretaking the earth, and that's never been given the time of day unless you, as post, or maybe in high school or in college, you become a marine biologist or something. I mean, I don't even know if at that point anything was ever taught about taking care of the earth.
I don't remember anything.
No, not for a nanosecond, do I? And
well, George Carlin, he says, "Oh, the earth doesn't need us to take care of it. We just need to get rid of the people. The earth will be fine."
That's becoming more
technically clear, isn't it?
More obvious.
I think prosperity's had a lot to do with it. I think that there's just we were talking earlier about the people living paycheck to paycheck, but there are obviously a huge population of people who have disposable income and this is one of the places they're choosing to spend it. And I noticed that the Chinese now are making a large presence felt out there. They're allowed to travel. They have money. They want to see the world.
Which is a great thing, right?
And there's cultural, there's cultural things to feel and see and experience in other countries. I mean, some of the great museums of the world are found in Europe or...
a lot of stuff to see there.
Yeah.
But, the thing with cruise ships and dumping and all that, the one we were on made it very clear. They had signs all over the place talking about how they dealt with garbage and with human waste, so to speak. And, it all depends. At some point, they're unloading it somewhere. They may not be dumping it in the ocean anymore, but they're... And these cruise lines are going everywhere now. They're going through French Polynesia, the Galapagos Islands.
I think they're utterly despicable and grotesque, and I'm just going to be really judgmental about it and never change.
We're just the ones that can't be judgmental.
Yeah, you can be judgmental.
No, I've always felt this, and I have always said to myself, I will never go on a cruise. Now, that being said, when I was a little girl, my dad had a cabin cruiser, like a 40-foot boat, right?
Yeah.
So I would go on the boat as a little girl, and because it was his favorite thing in the world to do, was to have his time of not working, he'd go on the boat. And I really loved doing that, but it was because it was with my dad, and my parents were divorced, and it was the only time I had with him. I mean, we could have been shoveling horse manure, and I would have been equally thrilled.
Yeah.
But I remember noticing at that time, because I'd always look at the wake of the boat that the boat was making.
Yeah.
I remember always looking at that going, what kind of impact is this having?
Yeah.
This is gas-powered. We're always filling the thing up with gas.
You were thinking that at that young age?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know why I was an anxious child. But anyway, I just wanted to also say that Catalina has nice hiking trail. I mean, you can hike till the cows come home there. Lots of hiking.
Yeah.
Or the bison.
Well, I went to Japan with my grandparents on a freighter in the early 70s, and I was only 12 at the time. And at one point, we were out in the middle of the ocean, and I guess one of their washing machines broke down, and they just pushed it over the side of the boat. And I remember being very appalled by that, even as a 12-year-old. I mean, I was raised, you don't litter, and... Yeah, and I remember the reaction of the crew was, don't worry about it. Everything's fine,
It's disappeared. Look.
I was thinking about that, too, because when I was, one of the times my dad and I were getting on the boat, he had a 6-pack of ginger ale that he was carrying on, because you buy supplies for the galley and all that, and it slipped out of his hand and went into the water. And this is right by the dock, and I was literally like, oh my God, can I dive down there?
I grew up on Lake Erie, and we had there were several boats that my father, who was also loved to do that, and it was just typical. You drank the beer and over the side.
Over the side.
Oh yeah,
and that's normalizing, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's just over the side.
Avenge my father's spirit, ghost, whatever. He did not do that. His memory, that's the word I'm looking for. He never threw things overboard, actually, that I ever saw. I'm saying he accidentally dropped a full 6-pack of Canada Dry ginger ale, and I was, A, upset because I really wanted to drink that ginger ale, and B, I was really upset because it made me think, wait a minute, is this going down into the water, and it's just going to sit there? That doesn't feel right. Anyway, there was nothing you can do. It just sank like a stone. And anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I'll make room for someone else to call. But other than that, I recommend, if people want to travel, you just got to do it what's off season and travel in crummy weather.
Stay at hotels.
Well, right. stay at hotel. That's the other thing. I noticed the first place I noticed the Airbnb backlash was quite a long time ago, and it was in New Orleans.
Right.
I'm going to say 10 years ago, 8 years ago. Quite a while ago, I started noticing, and I know I've mentioned that before on this show, I feel like. And they are right on, it's a tight community, that city, and it's not that big a city, and it's really changed the face of things in so many cities across the globe. Venice, of course, being the poster child for a completely ruined place in terms of community. So yes, stay in hotels and travel during a rainy season. What the heck?
Yeah,
live a little.
Off-season travel, wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks you,
for
Sally.
calling.
And Sally called in on our number one line, which is 415-663-8492. If you have any comments or solutions for touristification of the world, give us a call, won't you? 415-663-8492. And this is KWMR 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, and 92.3 in San Geronimo Valley, online at kwmr.org. And KWMR is supported by our listener members and by the Dance Palace Community and Cultural Center, located at 5th and B Streets in Point Reyes Station. Member-supported, the Dance Palace offers classes, events, and facility rentals for all the communities of West Marin. Membership information, volunteer opportunities, and schedules available at 415-663-1075 or online at dancepalace.org. And we're also supported by, of course, our wonderful listener members and by Marin Agricultural Land Trust, a member-supported non-profit organization working to preserve Marin County farmland. On the web at malt.org. That's MALT.org. And we're also supported by Hosteling International Point Reyes Hostel, part of Hosteling International USA, a non-profit organization founded on a belief in the power of travel, to foster a deeper understanding of people, places, and cultures. Hosteling International Point Reyes Hostel provides accommodations to individuals and groups of all ages inside the Point Reyes National Seashore. Yeah, hosteling.
Well, that
good
brings
way to travel.
Yeah, that brings up something. All we're complaining, but 1 million visitors come to the seashore a year, and this is probably one of the people that come. It's a major experience of nature for a lot of people that live in urban environments. That's very positive. The trails are fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to get out there and experience something that, people
is out of the ordinary.
Yeah, people might not, and I haven't found the trails that crowded either. It's not like you go out there and go, oh my God, look what's going on.
Right.
It's only certain days.
Well,
traffic backs up at the crossroad there.
Or if you're at the lighthouse.
Yeah, places like that.
Run into.
Yeah.
But
you have to do a little work maybe there.
It's more the effect on the roads, maybe.
Oh, my goodness.
No?
This can't just be, let's complain about tourism.
No. Okay. I won't.
I will. No.
No, I mean, seriously, I just came up with something positive.
Yes.
And you want to talk about roads.
Well, what are the impacts of tourism here? They
it's
do come
business.
And they spend money here locally.
That's true.
So it's actually a good thing for the community and for businesses here.
Hasn't helped the Marshall Roads, I can tell you that.
The Airbnb situation is rampant here as anywhere else, and people can't afford to live here. There are fewer places available for rent. Rents go up, people move away. In fact, I had an email from what's his name, Paul Coopersmith, who ran a travel company. I think he used to do tours to New Zealand. He lives in New Zealand now. And he said, if it'll come up, hang on. This is exciting radio, isn't it?
Hang on, sleepy.
You may have seen or heard about my letter in the New Yorker on the subject of overtourism. I'd love to take part in your show, but we're currently on the South Island of New Zealand, where the subject of cruise ships is sharply dividing the local community. As someone who can no longer afford to live in West Marin, it breaks my heart to witness what's happening there. I wish I had an answer to some of your questions, but I'm afraid there's no simple solution. This issue, and specifically the hollowing out of our communities, is, to my mind, as important as income inequality, mass immigration, AI, and the loss of middle-class jobs, homelessness, and the disaster in Washington, all of which are interrelated.
Yeah.
The only thing I can add is how important it is to keep searching for ways to control the tourist invasion. Because, like it or not, it's only going to get worse unless we can somehow solve this Rubik's Cube of a problem. There you go.
Well, you know,
Thank you, Paul.
I'm still trying to come up with, ways to put some positive spin on it. One thing that I can think of is that, again, the travel writers, they have like a checklist. You're in Venice, you have to go see this, you got to be there. And so that's where the crowds end up. But if you, go to some of the cultural institutions, etc., many times they're overlooked. So, that's if you stay away from the checklist experiences, these cities can be. It's still the hollowing out is a whole nother story. But I'm just
I think
talking about experiencing a city.
If we're just talking about tourism, that's one thing. But we're talking about the impact that the tourism is having on communities.
Yeah.
The toxic effect.
So how do you put a positive spin on that? Yeah, because I think it's more that we need to wake up and notice when things like that are happening and step in and create the regulations that can, limit that invasion, especially when it comes to things like Airbnb, where people are coming and buying up properties with the sole intention to rent them out as short-term rentals. And especially out here where it's so hard to find a place to live already.
Yep.
New York City, I was reading, is starting to send inspectors out to check and see whether it's an actual place where somebody lives.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Hi, caller. You are on the air. What's your name, please?
It's MK.
MK.
Hi there.
Hi, kids.
What a great picture of your mother. Oh, I mean.
Excuse me?
What are you talking about?
Didn't you post a picture when you got married?
Oh, yeah.
I just thought it was
old
beautiful.
picture. That's a funny one. That was so funny. I had no underwear on.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay. It's a hot day.
It was a wedding. She was all set.
Oh, dear. Okay. I'm blushing now.
Interesting. It was a very interesting wedding. Anyway, it resulted in some very fine children.
Exactly.
I was sitting here thinking that what may happen down the road a piece with these cruise ships and so on and so forth, who are already breeding illness, is that when the inevitable happens of us all mixing together and creating strains of illness that can't be cured by antibiotics, etc., that may put the little kibosh on a lot of cruise traveling. Because I think that there are a lot of people who just don't really pay attention on those big cruisy love boat kind of boats, which I see in the harbor here in Seattle all the time, and that we're gonna get sick. We're polluting the water. We're polluting the oceans and the drinking water and everything else. And how long can this go on in this piggish way?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, gosh, add that to the list, huh?
It's kind of a long-term. I can't wait that long.
You may not have to wait that long. I mean, it may happen a lot sooner, because I know now everybody's getting norovirus or whatever.
Norovirus,
yeah, and poisoned, and they try to hush it up, and people come staggering off the boats and have to go to the hospital. I mean, it's not a good thing. So, and I also think that what I've heard, I've traveled some, but not nearly as much as I would have liked to. But an awful lot of people go places just so they can say they were there. Did the cocktail party? He goes, well, where did you do? Where you went to the Great Wall, or you went to Machu Picchu, which is legitimate, or you went to
the Eiffel Tower,
Tierra del Fuego, or someplace, just so that you can say to your friend or your person that you're having cocktails with, not necessarily a friend, that you went there and you didn't know anything about the culture, you didn't know anything about anything except that you went there. You can sort of put a sticker on your suitcase like they did in the old days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the classic, what they used to call the ugly American. I don't know. It's where they just come and take a photo and they're gone.
And leave their trash.
Yeah, and leave the trash, and then they move on. If it's Tuesday, it must be Belgium, right? It's that kind of doing the European tour.
I had this cousin that I told you about earlier who made the shaving your legs comment to me, that I wasn't anybody. And when I was living in Hawaii, she went to Rapa Nui, just so she could tell me that she had gone to an island that was more remote. I'm not kidding.
Evil woman.
Just like fine, enjoy your life.
Oh dear.
But, it's and I don't need to put my size 11 feet on Mount Everest. Good Lord, that's crazy.
Well, that is the epitome of dark tourism.
It's ridiculous.
Bodies,
oh my gosh.
stepping over dead people to get there.
I mean, the minute you got there and you see this line, wouldn't you turn around and
Just
go, I don't think so.
Like stuck in the middle of a line. I mean,
yeah, like how can you
waiting
go through it
around the block for a movie?
Yeah.
Never mind the freezing to death or running out of oxygen and having a stroke or whatever people die from up there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Global warming
takes the specialness out of it.
A lot of corpses.
So where's the last place you went as a tourist that was what we're called? I call it toxic tourism, but so what are your experiences? Haven't you gone anywhere?
What? What's the last part?
Haven't you experienced that? Haven't you been one of those people that have found yourself?
Sure, but not nearly as much. Because I'm too broke. Oh, wow. I can't go because I don't have any money. But
well, would you go if you had the money?
I think I'd like to go to. I've never been to Scandinavia, and I would love to go there and just find a way to stay long enough to understand what was going on. Yeah. But when I went to Hawaii, I lived in the villages and taught in the schools and got to know the people and was a haole and learned about all of that discrimination and so on and so forth. And it was a really, really valuable experience. You just don't go there to go to a luau and eat poi and make faces.
That was an important word you just said. Experience. I think what we're talking about are that experience is missing. Wouldn't you say
they're not experiencing the place itself? They're just taking a selfie and moving on.
Big feet and you toss your cigarette butt out the window, or whatever, and light something on fire, and I don't know. It seems this probably sounds like a cop out, but I'm not really in any condition to go on any long distance trips, even if I could right now. But oh, shucks, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, I think it's kind of going back to the idea of the cruise ship. Like, that's something that's never appealed to me because, I don't know, maybe claustrophobia. Yeah. The idea of being just packed onto a ship full of people and not being able to escape it.
Being drunk and swapping partners and whatever else.
Yeah, this escaping.
I'm too old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, too old for that.
So that's my two cents worth. But I really think that the problem of illness is going to
kill
a lot of people down the road.
Kill the cruise ship business, you think?
We'll take care of overpopulation, maybe.
Oh boy,
awful.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Very good.
Here I'm God. Okay. So
go get on that cruise ship. See you later. It's been nice.
Yeah, population control through cruises.
Thank you, MK.
Okay, hang in. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
415-663-8492 is the number to call.
Been on a cruise? Call us.
Been on a cruise? Like a cruise, do ya?
Can you imagine if a big tour bus came into Point Reyes and
Well,
They do come into Marshall.
they're at Marshall.
really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hog Island. These big, they're black. It's almost like aliens emerging.
Wow.
We have a caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please?
It's Sally calling again.
Sally again.
Hello.
We gotta get off the cruise ship jag for a minute here. It's such a drag. Okay, here's what I want to say. Something positive now.
Thanks for calling, Sally.
There are
been trying.
okay. So there's ecotourism, and okay, I haven't really ever done that, and so that is something that might be either a ruse or it might really be a good thing.
So how do you define that?
I don't know.
When it becomes
does it
too
mean?
much of a good thing is when it.
I don't know. I think it's a tourist. You go on a tour, or you go to a resort that has an awareness, and maybe they are very careful and have specific protocols about.
Okay, so you're making your travel plans with the environment in mind.
Yeah. No, but I mean there are like places that cater to this specifically. There are probably tour companies as well as destinations, like notably in places like Costa Rica that are eco resorts.
South Africa.
Okay. Now that's one positive thing. Not that that's going to help with the overrun of people schlepping from point A to point B, because there's still that. However, I want to give a shout out to people who are on their bicycles, fully packed, riding from one destination to I don't know where their end point. I mean, I know someone who has ridden all the way to like Tierra del Fuego or something. Just camping.
Yeah.
Or staying with people that one might meet along the way, and just propelling your body through space and across distances by just pedaling.
Yeah,
and that,
impressive.
to me, that's exalted. I'm really impressed whenever I see someone doing that, or a couple of people.
Yeah.
There was a couple on the road this morning.
Yeah,
Past them coming in.
It's really impressive.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends from Long Beach started up a bicycle tour, the two of them, and created a whole culture around it called the Path Less Pedaled. And, they post pictures of themselves fishing and, all the different things they do. But, yeah.
Yeah, very good.
He used to bicycle as a photographer. He had a trailer on the back of his bike for his equipment, and he'd show up on his bike.
And you can, could hike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, not to Mount. I think there should be a moratorium on these people.
Mount Everest?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's a sacred. These big mountains, they're sacred, and they've been defiled in the most despicable fashion, and
tons of human waste every year.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. All right, now I've gone back into the negative. Woohoo! Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
I'm sorry. I think that it's too much of a good thing is the problem. I don't see that visiting places are necessarily a bad experience or a bad thing to do. It's just when
there's just too many people.
And thousands of people go to the same spot.
Yeah.
It's the same old problem. It's overpopulation and middle
and
class
greed, right?
income to spare.
7-story cruise ship. Come on.
Uh-oh, Sally's already castigated us.
Well, I was thinking about this idea. There's people who put themselves, I don't know what the different websites are, but you can stay at someone's house in exchange for doing some gardening or, taking care of something around the house. And you get to live in the community. And, it's more of an immersion. And you're not impacting.
We're friends with a couple who are doing that around the world. They're house sitting,
right?
And they line up their house sitting jobs. So that right now they're in South America somewhere, and next time they'll be in Spain or something, and having a wonderful time. Caller, you are on the air. What's your name, please?
Yeah, my name's David.
David.
I'm wearing underwear.
Oh, good.
Oh, thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. Well, a couple of things and thoughts. I just read a great article in the New York Times Online this morning. It was basically saying these spots on the planet, Barcelona and Dubrovnik or someplace in Croatia, I can't remember. These 6 places are way overcrowded. Venice is one, and Santorini. It showed pictures of lines of people lining up to photograph the sunset and all that stuff. And it said, here are 6 alternatives.
Yeah.
It's just as pretty and much quieter, much less touristic,
Right.
which aroused the same ire in me that when I read the article on Point Reyes in the New York Times, which is, what's that going to accomplish? It's going to make all of those people come here or come to the alternative to Santorini, where that's one thing. I mean, the basic problem here is that we think we're entitled to go somewhere. And so here we are with fossil fuels and cruise ships and stuff like that. By the way, I'm probably the only one of your listeners who's ever been under a cruise ship.
Under a cruise ship.
Under a cruise ship.
What does that mean?
Denmark 2 years ago, and we drove in a tunnel under called Limfjord. Karin is listening, and she'll probably know where this is. But anyway, we drove under Limfjord, and there was a cruise ship right above us as we drove under this thing. Of course, we couldn't see it until we got out the other side. But anyway,
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Tourism is just a fact, and we're finding more and more ways to be more devious about it.
Well, opening up those nice sleepy places. Santorini was a wonderful place, and look at that photo in that article is just appalling to me. I cannot believe it. It was just like the Everest shot, just people in a neighborhood. They're all houses right there, and they're all in the streets and on the roofs, and oh man.
Wow.
There goes the neighborhood.
Key West is like that too.
Oh yeah.
Billions of people, especially at sunset.
Well, I've got a question. There are house exchanges as well, and how would you feel having doing a house exchange and you having people that you don't know other than meeting online, etc. But you move to their house, they move to yours. I have a problem with people moving into my house. It's just
We did
for
that.
a month or whatever. I just have a problem with that.
My mom did that when we were kids. A family from Massachusetts stayed in our house for a month, and we stayed in their house for a month in Massachusetts. And for us, our experience was that it was super interesting to be in a foreigner's house, and kind of taking in that culture. They used heating oil. That was different. And we were there for a heating oil delivery. And this particular house was the parish house. And so everyone in the town knew who lived in that house. And we actually became news in the neighborhood. And this little old lady that would write stories in the paper would go on little day trips with us and then report about it in the news.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's lovely.
So, and then... on the other end, the people who stayed in our house, the only thing I remember about that is that they took the Cornish game hens that were in our freezer and cooked them and ate them and replaced them and said, sorry, but we replaced them. And we're thinking, gosh, they've been in there a long time. Well, thank you. But yeah.
Oh. Well, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling again.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
415-663-8492 is the number. We've got a couple of minutes left. Give us a call with your thoughts.
Originally that's what Airbnb was supposed to be like, is you're going away, you can rent out your house.
Yeah. Or it started out as rent your couch, right?
Yeah, right.
I've got sleeping space in my living room, and you'd still be there, but a traveler can come through.
Right.
But it turned from that into a big business, the tourist business.
Absolutely.
And there were, there we are. There were, in 2017, it was the hot spot time for protesting in Europe against, especially in Spain and the Balearic Islands, against tourism. They were coming into restaurants and setting off flares and doing all kinds of things, slashing bus tires and so. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please?
Hi, this is Martine in Bolinas.
Martine, hello.
Hey, well, this will not solve the cruise ship problem or the whole issue of tourism. However, for those people who are wanting to travel and would like to do it in a way that is somewhat different and perhaps more with more awareness, there's really thousands of communities, intentional communities and eco-villages around the world now, and they host visitors. And
nice.
You could go and stay for a week or two or more and participate in the life of that community, learn wonderful skills such as natural building and all kinds of things that they have that you can participate in and learn, and you contribute to the community that way, and you're in a situation where you really are in a different culture and really experiencing something that could change your life.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So how do we find out about that?
Go to the Fellowship for Intentional Community online, and there's a directory of communities, and I love their annual directory because you can open up a 2-page large format spread of the map of the world, and let's say you want to go to some place in some remote area, who knows, Iceland or I don't know, anywhere in the world, you can just put your finger on the map, and nearby there will be the name of a community or communities that are local to that area. Then you can look that up in the directory and find out how many people, what their focus is, are they vegetarian, omnivore, do they specialize in music or art or permaculture, and what is the mode of visiting them. And then you can write to them.
Very interesting.
And inquire about visiting and possibly make an incredible journey.
That sounds fabulous, and
it
I
really
think
does.
It kind of goes to that idea of immersing yourself in a culture and in a community, and how much you gain from that exchange, rather than getting on a tour bus.
And be close enough to make friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sure. And enemies.
Thank you for the program. Bye.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
calling.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Martine. Yeah, thank you. And just one thing I wanted to mention is the rise of dark tourism. This was an article in the Atlantic 5 years ago about how it started in the Golan Heights. Tourists would come to the Golan Heights in Israel and look over the border fence to where Syria was being bombed. Really? What a pro.
Can you hear that?
That's really the lowest common denominator,
this is what's killing Europe.
Cell phones?
Swear.
That same tone is being heard around
swear.
in the streets of Dubrovnik right now, a million times over. Anyway, dark tourism. It's all about visiting war zones and places where horrible things have happened. Going to where the Medellin cartel used to have a torture house and all that sort of stuff.
My God.
People are going to active war zones. There's a company, warzonetours.com, and they're going to Chernobyl. People are flocking to Chernobyl. I guess HBO did a series about Chernobyl.
Well, why would you want to go anywhere near that place?
Well,
Please call in and
good
tell
question.
us.
You might want to see the mutated species.
Well, exactly, yes. I mean, it's supposed to be a wonderful place now for wildlife. I mean, they may have some mutations, but it has all come back. There's more wildlife than ever, and no people, which is, that's
there
basically what this show is all
Heal
about.
the earth.
Anyway, that was our show on touristification. Thank you for calling. Thanks to everyone listening. And KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members.
Very good.
We'll
Thank you.
be back next Thursday at noon with another topic. And thanks, everyone, for listening.